What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 82 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Lilienwall. I got producer Noah here with me. And Noah, I'm back from Mexico, and we are back with another off-season episode of coverage of the Seattle Sounders and Major League Soccer. I'm excited to get back to it. How are you feeling?
It was a nice break. I won't lie. It was nice to, distance myself from the crash out Chris's, from, the fanatics amongst us, but every time I try and get out, it pulls me right back in, Ari. It pulls me right back in.
We were in the dog days of the MLS offseason, but I feel like with our little hiatus, things really picked up. The Seattle Sounders, they're off in Spain doing preseason stuff. They've played a couple of preseason matches since we've last recorded, so we've got some kind of game reviews. It's not like an official game review, but it's our first, I'll call it our first game reviews of 2025. And there was some good takeaways, I thought, from these games, actually. So it's not like those preseason games where nothing happened. Like there's some good stuff here. And then a lot of stuff around MLS. We've got some potential blockbuster intra-league trade transfer movement. We've got new signings, new designated players. We've got some pretty funny chaos and turmoil engulfing Inter Miami, actually. So excited to talk about that. And then we're also going to talk about the Seattle Sounders not competing in this year's U.S. Open Cup. That was some news that dropped while we were away. They will be in Leagues Cup. They will not be in Open Cup. So we're going to talk about that. I think that was everything for the intro.
Yeah.
But before we get into all that, we got a couple of housekeeping items as usual and some exciting announcements. Before that, I do have to let you all know that Lobbing Scorchers is a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS. What was that link?
Sounderatheart.com/LS.
Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show. Noah, do we have any new subs? Forgot to ask you before we started recording.
I didn't look, but probably.
Okay.
We'll get them next time.
We'll get them next time. Hopefully we do. I honestly don't know. We should have looked at that spreadsheet. Good content by us.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness,
we're in mid-season form right now.
sounderatheart.com/LS. One of the best, if not the best ways to support the show if you like the content. Exciting announcement. Mm-hmm. Lobbing Scorchers has new sponsors.
Woo!
2 new sponsors. Yay. We are excited to announce that we have officially agreed to partner with both Haxon Ferments and Podium Menswear in Edmonds, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Two local businesses that one of whom reached out to us, the other we reached out to them. We're still in the process of developing exactly what these partnerships are going to look like, what we're going to do. But I can tell you that Haxon Ferments is going to be the sponsor of the Blazing Hot Coach Press Conference of the Week this year. That's right. We have landed a sponsor for that segment, and they make a lot of hot sauce, so we figured it was only logical to have them sponsor that segment, and we're also going to be promoting them a lot as well. And Podium, great menswear store in Edmonds. Go check it out.
If anyone knows clothes, it's Ari.
Yeah.
If anyone knows clothes, it's Ari.
He's being sarcastic, but he knows clothes, and he knows that Podium is good. So stay tuned for those ad reads, and definitely any sponsor that we get on this show, patronize their business, please. Because we want to do right by them because they're helping us out. So I'm excited about that announcement.
Yeah.
That's our third sponsor, if you throw in Full Pull Wines as well. Mm-hmm. So shout out to all our sponsors. And if you would like to sponsor Lobbing Scorchers, we're always accepting new ones.
Hit our line.
Anything to add on that?
With both of these partnerships, I can hint a little bit. Both of them will come with extracurriculars, more than just a little ad read.
Exactly.
So that's all I'm going to give away. But just be excited. I do want to say too, for Podium, that's a day one listener right there.
Yeah, literally.
Nick, so shout out
Nick.
And for Haxon, you'll hear their ad reads across the Sounder at Heart podcast network. So that's super exciting as well, helping grow the Seattle soccer scene. That's all. We're just excited.
Hell yeah. Other than that, if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and drop a sub to the YouTube. Mm-hmm. We're on the road to, what are we on the road to now?
1,300.
1,300? Yeah, help us get to 1,300 subs
we have to pass
on YouTube. Go ahead and like the video. subscribe to us on all platforms, write reviews, don't be a crash out Chris.
Yep.
I think that's it. Also, we did drop a new video on the YouTube of the ambition ratings, which I revealed on one of our live streams. And our editor Noah really
she killed it.
She went all out on that one. There's all kinds of elaborate graphics with the scores I had and the low. It's honestly great content, and it's doing a pretty good views, but it could be doing even better if you haven't watched it yet and you go watch it after this.
Finish this video first.
Okay, I think that's it for the housekeeping. That was a lot of housekeeping, but there are some exciting announcements.
We were gone for like 2 weeks.
It was merited, and we've been on hiatus.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this off-season episode, Noah, because there's a lot to get to. We got to be efficient with this.
Yeah.
But I think the first thing Seattle Sounders coverage-wise that we have to get to is these first 2 preseason matches. They've been playing these friendlies. Today they played, I believe it was a club that just got promoted from the Danish second division to the first division. Mm-hmm. And Seattle scored a lot of goals, so that was fun. We're going to talk about that. But they also played a scrimmage against some similar tier team before that. And they also won that game. But I think, Noah, my number one takeaway across both these first 2 games, having just watched the highlights of the second one today and been told the information of what happened in the first one, and I saw a couple of those highlights too. Pedro de la Vega, good, great, actively good in these 2 games.
Yeah.
Okay, and that we know it's the preseason caveat. Like, it doesn't matter until he does it in the actual games. But I mean, this was some genuinely encouraging stuff. Like, I don't think we need to couch this. No. We don't need to couch this. He looked sharp. He looked on it. He looked like he looked like the point that he has to prove this year was not lost on him. I think, to me, it sounds like he went into camp this year with the mentality of, I need to have a good ass camp. I can't be like ramping up slowly. Like, I got to be on point from day one, and so far it looks like that's what he's doing. He had a really nice goal in that first game, which it was a finish from a pretty tight angle, which not like a super easy finish. But I thought the most encouraging thing that we saw in that first game was that through ball. You saw this, Noah? Through ball that he hit to find Jordan Morris for the breakaway. That, I think, was an example of the type of stuff that he can bring to the table, and that can unlock a new ceiling for this offense if he's able to do that with consistency. No, I think you and I kind of differ on our evaluations of his season last year. You were pretty much saying you didn't see it at all. Like, it was pretty much a categorical bust, which I don't blame you for that, but I do see that a little bit differently. I do think that there was individual flashes where we did see it, and it just didn't happen with any sort of consistency due to his fitness issues and just inability to get acclimated to the team, get chemistry with his teammates and all that. But I thought that moment was, again, like, that's one where you see that and it raises your eyebrows a little bit, and it almost has you dreaming, Noah, about the question, the age-old question. What if Pedro de la Vega is good?
What if? What if he's more than good, Ari?
What if he's like like a plus
what if he's
MLS player?
Yeah, what if he's like, great even?
It's things that preseason matches like this can have us dreaming about. And I say that, somewhat facetiously, but he's looked good.
Yeah.
He's looked really good.
I think that there's 2 things that come to mind for this. Obviously, yes, it is preseason, and I think that it's fair for all of those who are gonna wait it out to until there's some actual games under his belt, because he is a known practice god.
Yes,
he is a practice god, right? Same with Danny Leyva. Danny Leyva has also looked great over these 2 matches. I think that, for one, this new formation is helping with the way that he moves and his movement and getting settled. And 2, it's preseason, man. Like, he gets to reset, he gets to restart. And clearly, when he came here, he had that attitude, he had that swagger, he had that feeling like he was going to step in and be that guy. And you can kind of tell he's feeling himself a little bit again,
which is good. Yeah, and I feel like most of the fan base is going into this season already under the blanket assumption that Pedro de la Vega is not going to contribute anything at all to this team this year. I think there's a sentiment, at least among the vocal minority, that we can already assume that.
Yeah.
And I think this to me was a reminder that we can't necessarily assume that. We don't know that. With a clean bill of health and a full preseason to actually work with this team and get his fitness right and his confidence up, I'm not going to tell anyone to not be excited about it just because this is a breakout that would be long awaited, and any signs of that at all that we see in preseason, I say take that hope and run with it. But I guess that leads me to my second takeaway from these two preseason games, which is that, I mean, I feel like it's looked very good, very sharp in general. The game today, which was recapped by Tim Foss over on Sounder at Heart, you can read that, and that's where I'm getting all this info. But De La Vega scored again. Jordan Morris got a goal. Albert Rusnak got a goal. Jesus Ferreira got a goal. Obed Vargas. Everyone was getting a goal. Everyone was scoring.
You have a goal.
And this is a team, by the way, that, as I understand it, just got promoted to the Danish top flight. Mm-hmm. You know,
which is a good
top flight overseas league.
Yeah.
That like the bots love leagues like that.
Yeah. If we signed someone from there, we would have
if
gotten
Jesus
an A.
Ferreira came from that league, it would be hailed as the most ambitious signing in MLS history. So like I'm just saying that it's not even necessarily one of those things where, I mean, clearly Seattle's way better than whatever lineup these guys were putting on the field, but it's not like they were playing like middle schoolers.
No, they
or
weren't playing
like
nobody.
It was an actual game. And,
I will say,
and they looked good. They looked sharp. Looks like everyone has been applying themselves. It's just. It was good. It was good to see them out on the field, looking that sharp and just looking like they're ready for a big season that lies ahead.
Yeah, I reached out to our Nordic/European correspondent, Sounder Naves, to give me a little more insight about the Danish league as a whole and this club. And he said while they're having an average season, that's understandable. They just got promoted, but they're still doing well. It's a good team. And the Danish league, he says, according to Sounder Nave, so go off in his mentions, that the Danish league is underrated. And if you look at their like ELO and their breakdowns as compared to other leagues in Europe, they're pretty comparable.
Yeah, and I'm sure for a friendly like this, they're not like playing their A squad. No. I'm sure there was like some of their academy kids and all that. But like the point is, when you have a talent advantage like that, that's the type of performance that you want to see. And I don't know, just watching the attack function that well, it was nice.
It was
like,
new.
Trust me, like we understand that until the real games start, none of this means anything. So you don't need to throw that caveat at us.
But I don't even think so.
It was notably good.
I don't even think that you have to caveat the excitement for the way that this attack is performing, because it is visibly different. The way that they're interacting, the way that they're moving the ball around, it's very different. They're playing a lot faster than what you're used to with Sounder ball. Like, I watched that whole first game and I watched all the highlights from this last game, and the thing that really struck me was just the fact that they're moving the ball quickly. They want to have constant movement, not this like, okay, go up the wing, slow down, try and make a cross, pass it back, loop it around. That's a Sounders game. That's Brian Schmetzer ball, possession. They were keeping possession, but I think the best that this team has played always is when they keep possession and they play the ball quickly and they play in the middle of the field. And let me tell you, a lot of those goals came from the middle of the field.
I think this team has a chance to be really good in transition this year if you can assume plus contributions from Pedro de la Vega and Jesus Ferreira. You watched the entire first game, you said. I didn't watch either of them. I was traveling, didn't have a chance. I saw the highlights of the second one, only seen a couple clips of that first game. What have you thought of Jesus Ferreira so far and what you've seen of him in these games? I saw his goal today, and I was encouraged by it because it was one of those you know how he can hit those from outside the box.
Yeah.
And that was a classic Jesus Ferreira finish right there, where like I don't think like the goalkeeper he's not even ready for a shot to be taken right there, and he converts that. So what have you thought of him?
I mean, I think that that's an interesting piece to add to this roster of what was solely basically counterattacking and set piece attack. Like that was what the Sounders were doing. That's what they were good at. Every once in a while, Jordan Morris was scoring a banger, but other than that, it was like Albert Rusnak plays in a beautiful ball, someone gets their head on it, or counterattack, Jordan Morris gets played in, beats his man, plays a ball in. And I think that adding that extra layer with Jesus Ferreira, where, like he's going to be able to dribble around in the box, play a little bit more like that Raul style of ball. Obviously not Raul, but being able to shoot even outside the box and actually be on target and have a chance, it's been interesting to add. I don't think that I want to make a full judgment on him just yet because I feel like he's not fully fit yet. I don't think he's fully like integrated.
And he's still, him and Areola are still learning how to play with the team. So.
And so I think that like it's encouraging, but I don't really think that I have a full assessment or even really a good assessment of
that's fair.
him yet. With the
I mean, I
minutes
feel
he's
like
played.
you could probably say that about the full team,
Sure.
But it was nice to see him get on the score sheet. I mean, it's not any game where you have De La Vega, Morris, Rusnak, Ferreira all scoring. That's good. That's what you want to see. Per Tim Foss of Sounder at Heart, some of the young player standouts. I think from the game today. From the game today, he said Snyder Brunel, Stu Hawk, and Kalani Kosterienzi were his picks for the young guy standouts.
Yeah.
And he actually said in his Sounder at Heart write-up that he thinks all three, there's a chance that at some point could push for first team minutes. So, I mean, Stu Hawks, we'll see what happens. I think the conventional wisdom is still that he's going to get loaned out. But I think if you're curious about the next crop of young up and comers, Snyder Brunel is a name that I hear pop up all the time.
Yeah.
I think internally they seem to be really high on him. And Kosterienzi, we saw what he could do in the Open Cup last year, which was a really sick backflip.
Yeah, which is like that's kind of what we need back on this team. We've been missing since Oba.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so,
I do want to say with Kosterienzi, that first game from him, he reminds me of Paul Rothrock in a way. Like he's kind of that same archetype of really aware of the space that he occupies and really good at off the ball movement. He sees the game when his head is down, like that kind of stuff. I love the way that he plays, and I think that I think he was the last one cut from the roster last season.
Schmetz seems to like him.
So
he got called in for the Open Cup. He had a really good, even outside that goal in that Open Cup game, I thought he looked really good.
We loved him.
He looked notably good in that game. So that's another one definitely to keep an eye on.
Paul Rothrock 2 just dropped.
Potentially. I think I feel like you were comparing him to Christian Roldan last year.
It's definitely, yeah.
It's like a little bit of Rothrock, a little bit of Christian. That's not a bad combination to have. Anything else on these two preseason games? I think that was pretty much all I had. I think the biggest takeaway so far is that De La Vega looks fit. He looks sharp. If there's any chance at all of him breaking out or at least being a plus contributor on this team this year, that's the type of start to the season that he would need to have. And he's had that. So for whatever that's worth, I think it's worth a little bit. And hopefully it's the foundation for him to build on. And I really, like I said, man, I feel like people are going into this season with it baked in that he's a zero. And I think that just like what was the case last year, if he does actually contribute meaningfully to this team this year, I mean, we don't even know what the ceiling could be at that point. Yeah. So
I think it's
exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. And I don't even think that, I think that it's nice for him at this point where they brought in someone, like Jesus Ferreira, that can kind of occupy that same space. I feel like there's a lot of weight lifted off of him, which was what we were both saying was one of the biggest reasons that we thought he was struggling so much to just get back at it. It seems like this team doesn't need one piece to drive the offense. They have 3-4 really solid players on the field where this is like an actual real offense now. It's not this, cobbled together, okay, De La Vega be the engine and now we'll be good on offense.
Yeah, I mean, and the approach clearly that they're taking to the roster right now with all the games they've got this year is spamming depth.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, guys like Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola might not be the flashiest names, but they're good. Everyone's going to be needed this season. So,
Yeah.
All right. The next topic that I wanted to hit was this announcement from MLS about the clubs that are going to be competing in the U.S. Open Cup this year and the clubs that are going to be competing in Leagues Cup this year. All those teams have now been announced. The Seattle Sounders will be playing in Leagues Cup this year. They will not be playing in the U.S. Open Cup. A lot of people are unhappy about that. It's been a polarizing topic. I don't even know if it's been polarizing. I feel like people are... Most people are pretty upset. So I figured we would give our takes on those takes and see where we come down on this. Should I go first?
I think you should go first. I want you to get canceled first. I don't want to get canceled yet.
Okay. I mean, look. All right. First thing I'll say is that, like, in my ideal world, 100% Seattle's first team would be playing in the U.S. Open Cup. And I didn't mention this, but Tacoma Defiance is going to be playing in the Open Cup in their place. In my ideal world, of course, Seattle's first team would be playing in the U.S. Open Cup. I share everyone's sentimental attachment to it. Some of my best memories over the years from covering this team are at those Open Cup games at Starfire. The first game I ever covered for MLS was an Open Cup game at Starfire. So I have that sentimental attachment as much as anybody. My first year on the beat was the year that they won it, and I'm with everyone who has who likes the content of it. You know, like us sickos, content. We love the fact that they play on these random fields against lower division opponents. The games are streaming on YouTube and not on TV. Like, all that stuff gives it character. It's got that historic significance. I'm with it. I love all that. I do think there's a reality at play as it pertains specifically to this season, which is that with the team in CONCACAF Champions Cup and the Club World Cup this year, even if Seattle's first team was in the U.S. Open Cup this year, the lineups that they fielded would look like more like Tacoma Defiance than they would a first team lineup. That's just the reality. And that would be true. Like, a lot of people, I think, are making it like this is between Leagues Cup and Open Cup. That's really not the deciding factor in this. Those lineups would be like that. You could take Leagues Cup totally out of the equation. And with the amount of games they have with Champions Cup and the Club World Cup, those Open Cup lineups would be rotated so as to functionally be Tacoma Defiance anyway. And that's just how it goes. So on top of that, like, Leagues Cup, I think the thing that people just have to understand is that the oligarchs, their main concern is making as much money off everything as possible. And so, like, pretty much no matter what us sickos and what us purists think, that's going to win out, like, at the end of the day when these decisions get made about what they want to prioritize.
Right.
And, like, you don't have to like that. I don't like that either. But I think when people talk about Leagues Cup and the Club World Cup as money grabs and stuff like that and dismiss them cynically on that grounds, they are right. But I don't know. I just feel like there comes a point where your issue ceases to even be with MLS or the Leagues Cup or even FIFA and the Club World Cup, and it becomes about, like, capitalism,
nostalgia.
Like everything is a money grab. True. At the end of the day, everything you do, like, there is a panel of oligarchs who their singular obsession and focus in life is making as much money off whatever we're talking about,
right?
Like, whether it's soccer or anything else. So, like,
you wade into the Pro Rel 4 USA.
I might have gone off on a tangent there, but, like, I just think that you kind of got to take those factors into account when you're thinking about it. But I agree that it sucks, like, to not have the first team in the Open Cup this year, because I share all those memories, but I just think it's the reality of how the schedule shaped out this year, and something had to give. And another point that I wanted to make on this, I think there is value that could be still found, a lot of value in the U.S. Open Cup with Tacoma Defiance competing in it instead of the first team. Look, I know a lot of Open Cup purists out there, like there are people last year who were talking about, like, putting a rotated lineup out for a Timbers League game so they could play the first choice 11 in the Open Cup. Like, I don't know what we're talking about with some of that stuff sometimes. I think you actually, especially a tournament that Seattle's already won 4 times, maybe the calculation's different if you never won it, but a tournament that you've already won 4 times, you get, I would argue, actually more organizational value of using that tournament as a platform to get your young guys experience in high stakes, pressure packed elimination tournament games. Those games last year where Costa Rienzi, like, he's not going to be out there if you're like selling out your first choice 11 in every Open Cup game. Those reps, you cannot emphasize enough how important those reps are for players like that. So I think, with the unfortunate reality that I think most MLS teams, the Open Cup is going to start gravitating just towards that type of tournament. There is like a very valid, very useful, very valuable place for that type of tournament. It's just a different type of value that you're getting from it. And so maybe, I don't know if it upsets you, the way I'm kind of choosing to look at it is I'm just changing the way I think about the Open Cup from like this tournament that, I really like care about winning every single year to like a tool for development, which I think is good and valuable.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on any of that. I think you cooked.
All right, I don't know.
For me,
if I get canceled,
well, I think what people are upset about is they're seeing it in black and white. They're seeing it's either Leagues Cup or Open Cup, and sure, like, I get it. I get being upset about the nostalgia of Open Cup, the shithousery of Open Cup, the fact that, now we have to do what MLS wants in this fabricated bullshit tournament. I'm just going to say it, Ari. The value of winning Leagues Cup, the value of playing in Leagues Cup and getting reps against Liga MX teams for all players and all teams is 10 times more valuable than playing against New Mexico United on a rainy Wednesday afternoon at fucking Starfire. I'm sorry. Like, you can hate it all you want, but the reality is
you're getting canceled for this.
In
fact, I'm canceling you for the New Mexico United stray. What the hell,
I knew
man?
that would get you. But like, to tone it down here, to be a little bit less reactionary, the nostalgia is amazing. The tournament is awesome. It's fun. But the way that the league has moved, it's moved forward in a different direction. And I don't think that it's a bad thing to play more international competition and play against these, Liga MX teams and really show what you can do against them. Secondly, I'm stoked that the Defiants get to play. That's just like, I think everyone should be cool, going out and supporting them and going to these games anyway. And the fact that you are going to be able to go and see the next crop of Sounders play against whoever is, whatever MLS club plays, is awesome. And I will say too, I'm going to put this in there too, because people are going to hate me already. I like the new format. I like it. You know why? It gives more USL clubs a chance to actually advance farther in the tournament. And what makes this tournament fun? Cup sets. Cup sets are what makes this tournament go round. The less MLS teams that are good, that are in this tournament, the better chance that a USL club has of winning. And I think that that's good. It's good to have them winning these big competitions. So, you know what? That's the way I see it. And if you don't like it, Cancel me, yeah.
I think the thing that us sickos who stuff like this is our all-encompassing obsession need to understand is that casual fans don't necessarily look at these things like we do. We love the character of it. We love the games that are played on elementary school fields with the track around it. To the casual fan, honestly, I mean, I'll tell you, like, the casual fan is probably way more compelled by watching their MLS team that they're a fan of play a Liga MX team than they are that. But even outside of that, like I said, the oligarchs certainly are they don't like the character of the Open Cup at all. Don Garber has literally said, like, on record, like, these like janky broadcasts on these janky fields with like 3,000 people, it's a great product for people like us, but for the broader audience at large, the oligarchs are looking at that and they're like, Leagues Cup against Liga MX, that's gonna win, like with the money involved and the stage and the partnership between the two leagues.
The average
there's just like
random Liga MX fan in
no
the US.
matter what you think of it, there's just no contest on like where they're gonna come down on that.
Yeah.
And that's who makes the decisions. So like I don't know, like I'm going on a tangent.
No,
again,
I think like mount your protests.
These are
do what
okay.
you want to do, but like
these are at least points that like you have to acknowledge, as opposed to just saying the Leagues Cup is a horrible money grab that is like overtaking like the great tradition of the Open Cup. There is like that is way oversimplifying it. Like,
Yeah.
And also I think just kind of not taking into account the capitalistic reality of how these things work.
It's a hard reality, you know.
It's a hard reality.
It's a hard reality.
I get it.
But you know, there's always a positive. It's also sports. So like, you know, maybe use your political action in a bit of a more productive way in the times that we live in than like I'm gonna go to MLS headquarters and chain myself to the door because they won't put my club in.
This topic got deeper than I expected.
Yeah.
We're talking about the merits of capitalism
Right.
and all kinds of things.
Down with the oligarchy, Ari. And of course you would have these opinions.
Anyway, no, yeah. So, and you guys,
We'll
we
get
can get canceled. Honestly, if you got differing takes than we just gave on that, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I understand, like the purists and the sickos, like are upset, and like I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I am one of those. I'm one of those. I'm just presenting the reality of the situation, and take it or leave it. Noah,
Yeah. Ari.
did you know that the Seattle Sounders are returning 92% of their minutes from the players who played their minutes from last year? I found this out on a graphic on Blue Sky from Elliot McKinley. Pulled it up, was looking at it, and he's got every team in MLS on this graphic and the percentage of returning minutes that they have from last year. So I just thought some of this was interesting, but Seattle is returning the third most at 92.2%, third most returning minutes from last year. And I think, first of all, the reason that caught my eyes, because I think that that sort of illustrates in a microcosm like why a lot of people are underwhelmed and not happy with the offseason. You know, change is exciting. People wanted big money, big flashy new stars. You got 92% of the minutes coming back. People aren't necessarily happy about that. But
when you compare it,
well, so but here's how I was thinking of it is like if you're looking at that 8% of new minutes, like how much can you reasonably hope that elevates the ceiling of the team? I think Jesus Ferreira, Paul Arriola, and a theoretically fit Pedro de la Vega as part of that 8%, there's at least reason to hope that can elevate the team quite a lot.
well, and if you look, I'm looking at this graph right here, and the Sounders return 92.2% of their minutes, and the Red Bulls return 70.1% of their minutes. Which team do you think has a better chance of winning MLS Cup?
It is just funny to look at some of these teams near the top and how different their situations are.
Yeah.
The number one team is the Portland Timbys, who are returning 96% of their minutes
I
from
don't know
last
why.
year. Was their season not kind of a shit show last year?
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
They're currently feuding with their best player,
Yeah.
so we're going to talk about that later.
Bring 'em
but
home.
that's like, you would think that they would have had more turnover than that, but I think the even crazier one is, this is honestly insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto FC is returning more of their minutes from last year than Seattle. They wouldn't spoon last year. They were literally the worst team in the league, and they're returning the most. They have like some of the least turnover.
No one's talking about their ambition, Ari.
Yeah, I mean, see, it's another example, man. Like the Insigne Bernardeschi, great ambition, but like Robin Fraser, man, that's tough. They're literally running. They had the wooden spoon team last year, and they're like, we're running
Fuck
it back.
run it back.
I'm sure there's like cap reasons
Okay,
for
listen,
that
they
or whatever.
won a trophy, Ari. Like, did we win a trophy? No, but you know who did? Toronto FC.
Yeah,
So,
no, you got me
you
there.
know?
But there's interesting stuff at the bottom of this chart as well. The New England Revolution have the most turnover, which isn't a surprise. But LAFC, we're going to talk about that later. They're down in the like lower tier of returning players. They've had a lot more turnover than I even realized.
Are they going to be booty?
I don't know. That's the question. So I guess that was the biggest surprise for me to see like down towards the lower tier of the list. But anyway, it's an interesting graphic to look at, and I knew obviously Seattle didn't have a ton of turnover, but that's honestly, they're like higher than I would have thought. 92%. Yeah. Like, I think that it sort of illustrates why like the exasperation of like running back the same thing over and over, even though Jesus Ferreira is certainly a big addition, like by any objective interpretation of it. So,
well, yeah, it's not about, I think it's an interesting graph, but we would both agree it's not about the percentage of change. It's about what you do with that percentage of change.
Exactly. That's
one player can change an entire MLS roster.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We're about to see how much with De La Vega. So
yeah.
Obed Vargas. No, you heard of him?
I've heard of him.
Asking price is reportedly $10 million. Both Chivas and Tigres. Is this per Sounder at Heart?
Yes.
Both Chivas and Tigres per Sounder at Heart. Jeremiah?
I don't think it was Sounder at Heart that first reported it, but...
Okay. Well, we'll...
re-reported by Sounder at Heart.
Re-reported by Sounder at Heart. Obed Vargas, asking price reportedly $10 million. Both Chivas, Guadalajara, and Tigres have apparently inquired about the Sounders midfielder, but they think the price is too high.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny. We were debating this on a previous show. What would our theoretical asking price for Obed be? I said 10 million or hang up the phone.
Yep.
Sounds like that's what Craig Wybes did.
Dude, he listens to the pod.
He listens to the pod.
Dude, he listens to the pod.
Okay, but I guess here's the question that we can discuss. Take our Obed fandom out of it. You know, we watch him play every game. We know how good he is. Do we honestly think he's a $10 million player, or is that a little too high?
I think if he was in Europe, he would be a $45 million player.
Wow.
I think if he's in another country, in another league, in another place, he's worth 3, 4, 5 times as much.
So because he's coming from MLS, it's depressing his value, and he's way better than a $10 million player.
I think that all of your value is based on what your competition looks like and how you equate that competition level to your own competition level. And I think that, think about it. I could totally see an MLS club or a European club signing an Obed Vargas who did, let's say he was in like Norway or, Germany or something, and they end up, he wins some sort of equivalent number of trophies and games on a similar equivalent team. That's like a superstar in the making. And he is a superstar in the making.
Here's what I think a counter argument might be, which is that he doesn't really play a premium position. Like a deeper lying midfielder like that, or like how Seattle's been playing him. Is that position that valuable to a team like Chivas or Tigres, or are they going to be more inclined to bring a $10 million player in who is a striker or a winger or even like a center back? I think that might be the argument they're bringing to the table in the negotiation. Now, personally, how I rate the player, I see the type of impact that he makes for Seattle week in, week out, playing that position. To me, that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think the people who think that he's not worth that much money, like they're seeing that he's not playing that premium of a position, and he's playing on this Seattle team where there's a lot of really good players around him, and they're probably thinking, all right, $10 million, slow your roll. I'm not going to slow my roll. I think he's at least a $10 million player right now. Mm-hmm. And I think like most of the scouts and pundits who are questioning that, if they watched him as often as we do, which we watch every game, I think they would be closer to finding out that they agree with us than they probably think. They won games. They took points that they shouldn't have taken last year because of Obed. And he was 18. And he also has CONCACAF Champions League starts on his resume from when he was like 16. So.
I think that, maybe his position isn't a premium, but he is a carry the load player.
Yeah.
You are right. Like there was There was a stretch of this season where the only bright spot on the entire team felt like it was Obed Vargas.
During that whole period where the offense was really bad.
Like he was working.
Remember they moved him to the wing.
They moved him. They were like, you know what? We know that you're good. Let's see what you can do in attack. And then he went and balled out, right? Like I think that he's a dynamic player. He's a potential World Cup player, considering he's now making, has caps for the Mexican national team. $10 million is a steal. If you knew that you could get a young player like that to come into the Sounders, would you pay $10 million?
Well, and especially for a Liga MX team where his level is higher than Liga MX.
Yes, it
You're
is.
getting a
He
player.
should not go there.
You're getting a player who I think is at least to me like Bundesliga, La Liga quality, and you're putting them in Liga MX theoretically in this situation. And they don't have the salary cap anyway. Their money's even faker than the MLS money. So so with that in mind, if I'm Craig Weibs, I'm not taking a dime less than $10 million for him.
Here's what Jeremiah had written in his article here as a comparison. One of them was Tottenham recently paid $11 million for an 18-year-old Lucas Bergvall who had never played before outside of Sweden and had about half as many first-team minutes as Vargas.
How much?
$11 million. Half as many minutes. 11 million.
And that
position,
that kid is not nearly as good as Obed.
Played in Sweden.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Who?
It's funny. Like I feel like we see the truth in these moments, but it's it falls on deaf ears.
It's fine. I think that he'll still get transferred.
The
thing is, if Liga MX clubs want to bitch and moan, the Sounders don't want to transfer him there anyway. They don't want him to go to Mexico because, one, that's competition for them. Why would they try and make their competition stronger? Number two, if he wants to go and play in Europe, going to Liga MX is a death sentence, man. You're not getting transferred from Liga MX to Europe. That doesn't happen. It's not a thing. If he wants to go play there, hell yeah. But Obed, if you're listening, don't do it, bro. Don't do it. Go anywhere else.
I think it's about time to jump into this around the league headlines. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about from around the league this week. Let's jump into this around the league stuff. We got a lot of good, juicy headlines and storyline. This is going to be the highlight of the show, I think, this week.
So.
No, we got a pretty weird story out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida this past week. I don't know what to make of this. You were telling me before we started recording that you hadn't really been following it that much.
No.
I was explaining to you the basics, but I'll lay down the nutshell for you and the rest of our audience. And you can tell me what you think of this one. Per Tom Bogert,
Friend of the pod,
who's going to come on one day when we can get him on West Coast time.
Well, we're going to be on Soccer Wise as well.
That's we hadn't plugged that at all, but yeah, we're going on Soccer Wise, so definitely watch that. There's been a big shakeup in the Inter Miami CF front office with president of football operations Raul, I might screw this one up. Raul Sanelli reassigned to oversee matters pertaining to institutional relations. So this guy was...
That's a lot of corporate speak, Ari.
This guy, basically, to uncorporate speak that, they hired this guy as sporting director to replace Chris Henderson, who went to Atlanta United. Shout out Chris Henderson.
Shout out.
They hired this guy to replace him. And then... I just saw this a few days ago. They reassigned to
They didn't even have his name on the door yet.
They demoted him like just weeks after hiring him. They demoted him to some what is this? Oversee matters pertaining to institutional relations.
You can wash our socks, dude.
That's so. That's the first thing I see that, and I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
what is going on here? And then it turns out that the guy who's replacing Raul Sanelli, Guillermo Hoyos, he's now in charge of the sporting decisions. He's the sporting director. He was their academy director. He is now the sporting director, and it turns out that he is like Lionel Messi's boy.
Yeah.
Messi calls him his footballing godfather.
Yeah.
I guess he mentored him when he was coming up in the Barcelona academy or something like that. And they've been boys forever. He came to Miami with Messi. Apparently he'd been the academy director all this time. Now he's getting promoted to sporting director. And this other dude is getting demoted, and he's been reassigned. I forgot this detail. They reassigned him to the club's office in Coral Gables and not the first team facility. They literally are like, you are not the sporting director anymore. You are going to Coral Gables. So what is going on here? And why is Messi's boy the new sporting director? Why did they demote the guy that they just hired? Well, I'm glad you asked. Turns out, also according to Tom Bogert, while the club were in Las Vegas for a preseason match against Club America, Sanelli, the original sporting director, entered the players and coaches only bus, which prompted an exchange of words with Lionel Messi.
Can we like imagine right now what it is? Like we can do a little like bit right here where we pretend that you can be Messi and I'll be the guy.
I mean, what do you?
I don't know. We'll just try and act it out here. Hey, I'm on the team bus, and because I needed to.
He's
talk
another
to
Italian.
You.
He's another Italian.
Yeah.
Basically, as I understand it, Messi expressed some sentiment to the effect of, "Hey, man, this is a players and coaches only bus. You're not a player or coach. What are you doing on here?" And evidently, what it sounds like happened is they started chirping at each other. It got testy. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, if you're the sporting director at Inter Miami, you just got hired, like literally 80% of your job description is specifically keeping that person, that one guy happy. So like, how are you going to get in a feud with him on the bus right off rip? But honestly, no, I actually don't have all that much of a take on this story other than just, isn't this weird vibes?
It's weird vibes.
This is weird vibes. What is going on
the cult
down
of
there?
Messi?
And like, also, like, I understand everyone knows that Messi is the most powerful person in that organization. But I will say, when you give a player this much power, you're towing a fine line there. You're playing with fire. You don't want to make him too powerful. It sounds like he's already too powerful, but like, where do you draw the line? Is he going to hire the scouting directors?
He already hired your coach.
He hired your he hired your coach, which we didn't even point that out. But he literally hired the coach. That's one of his boys. Yep. He got pissed at the sporting director. That dude is in Coral Gables.
They put him in a container and shipped his ass off to another part of Florida.
Shipped him to a different part of Florida, and now his boy is the sporting director. The thing is, like, do we like have any indication that this guy is like qualified from being Messi's footballing godfather and the academy director to now be the sporting director? Like, I have no idea.
In the league that is one of the hardest to be a sporting director in.
Yeah,
like,
he's got
far.
He's got to learn what gam and tam is, like right off the bat. You think the Messi's godfather knows what gam and tam is?
No,
I doubt it.
Probably doesn't even know about the new ma'am rule.
So like, I understand they have to give him this type of power.
Sure,
that's part of the deal with him coming to the league, being on the team. I don't know if that ends well. I would be sketched out if I were a fan. I'd be sketched out.
I think it's wild. What could he have possibly? I think there's two things. I want to know what that exchange could have possibly been like.
Oh,
Tom,
God.
I need you to leak the transcript. Someone has like a black box.
I would
from
give
that
anything
bus,
to be a fly on that bus.
Oh my God. I mean, like bro brings in all of his boys, and then
he's hired half the team.
He's hired half the club, half the training staff, half the coaches, and now he's got the sporting director.
The squad is essentially Lionel Messi Incorporated at this point.
Yeah.
It's like his company.
Yeah. It's getting ridiculous. I love Messi. Messi will forever be the GOAT to me, but like, man,
I've just never seen a player like demote this. I've definitely never seen a player get the sporting director shipped to Coral Gables, Florida. That's for sure. I've never seen that.
He's basically LeBron, like what LeBron did.
I was going to say that's like the closest comp that I could think of.
Yeah.
But even that, he never like, people joke that he's the GM. He never got the GM sent to like like the Bay Area.
They're like they're like, you've been on the job 3 days, so if we fire you, there's probably going to be a litigation. So we're just going to reassign you to the back office with the broken copier.
I just think that's weird vibe for Inter Miami. They're playing a dangerous game. I'm going to be keeping track of the vibes down there because, we were with everyone else last year watching them play and being like, damn, this is probably the best MLS team I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. If their vibes go toxic or Messi's unhappy or just like this
It's
academy
Icarusing. They're
director,
Icarusing, bro.
footballing godfather as your sporting director. Like, they better hope they've got like some real good infrastructure around that guy. I don't think he even wants that job.
Probably not.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Here's what's crazy though. I feel like they're Icarusing, right? Like they had Sean Henderson saved them. He saved them. He got them out. Chris, I'm sorry, Sean. Chris, crash out. But he saved them. He took them from this club that
they were a joke.
They were not only a joke, they were like so incompliant that it was like 3 seasons in a row that they were like sanctioned for.
They had 6 DPs and then almost wooden spooned anyway.
Yeah, like so you went from one of the best in the business to someone who seemingly had some sort of credibility.
He had to have some qualification.
I've never heard of him, but like, whatever. And now it's just Messi's academy boy. What are we doing? Like, do you think that Inter Miami survives after Messi leaves?
Well, so this is, I guess, sort of the other point to think about, which is that it feels like a house of cards.
Yeah.
They got 4 of the top like 12 players that have ever played the game, including the literal best player, all like on the wrong side of 34, 35. And that's going to work in MLS until they're in their late 30s. But if you don't have like the infrastructure and foundation around that, if those guys age out, they get hurt, they leave, they retire or bored, you are chalked and you're not going to be able to like sustain your success at all. For however much people complain about broke Hanauer and Seattle's roster building, they have a foundation in place where 1 player or 2 or 3 players having to move off them, it'll hurt you. It'll take some time to work your way back up, but it doesn't necessarily have to sink them, like Inter Miami, they're not in that situation at all right now.
No, they're not looking good. And this comes off of the heels of transferring away like half of their young players that Messi attracted to the club, which we were both like, oh, they're set up great for the future. They've got all of these prospects that they can work into the first team. And, Messi will eventually sunset off and the Barca boys will eventually sunset off, but you're going to be able to work in these new really good young players. And, Jorge Mas is like, we will always have at least one of the best players in the world on our club. So you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is something. And now it's like, all right, let's be so for real. You are coached, owned, operated by Messi.
That's what it seems like.
That's not going to work.
That's what it seems like.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work, Ari.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be tracking their potential downfall. I mean, we're talking about all this, and the reality is that when you get the Barca boys out on the field and they are even 70 to 80% of their Barca boys days, this is probably the toughest team. This is the toughest team to stop in the league still. But toxic vibes can change a lot. It can change a lot.
Look at Toronto FC.
Next headline we have also, these are all Tom Bogues, basically. You can just credit all to Tom Bogues, but this is another Tom Bogues Give Me Sport report. FC Cincinnati are working to acquire star attacker Evander from the Portland Timbies. My Timbies edit, Tom didn't write that. Working to acquire star attacker Evander from the Portland Timbies. No deal is agreed or guaranteed. No deal agreed or guaranteed. But Cincy are pushing, and talks between all parties have been ongoing. This would be this new cash for trade rule. Like teams are already trying to cook on this. Cincy have been working on a deal for Evander simultaneously as an exit for Lucho Acosta became increasingly likely. With Give Me Sport revealing earlier on Wednesday that Estudiantes had agreed a fee for Acosta, though no agreement on personal terms has been reached. So 2 big bombshells from that report, which number one, the Lucho Acosta thing, I think we inferred that the writing seemed to be on the wall. He seemed disgruntled and demanding a transfer, but now there's a concrete bid apparently from Estudiantes that he might be on his way out of there, and that FC Cincinnati's plan to replace him is they are gunning for Evander. Like, they are trying to make this happen. They're trying to get him on their team, which there's
that
2 things to react.
Me.
2 things. Yeah, exactly. 2 things to react to here, which is that the Portland Timbies might be losing Evander, and that Evander might be going to one of the best teams in the league. Which one of those do you want to talk about first?
I hate them both, Ari. Can we talk about how he should be a Sounder? We'll talk about the first one first. We'll just dive into the first one.
I mean, I think from an FC Cincy perspective, if Lucho, like they've been dealing with drama all preseason too.
Yeah.
Yuya Kubo still isn't there.
Yeah, they're
Did
just
you know
like,
that?
yeah, everyone's holding out.
Yuya Kubo still isn't there. And then every time they asked Pat Noonan about these guys that are holding out, it was Acosta, Yuya Kubo, and there was one more. They had another holdout that I'm blanking on, but there was 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And every time that Pat Noonan was asked about it, he would be like, this is unexcused. This is unacceptable. They should be here with their teammates. Lucho Acosta was like, I'm done.
He's like, yeah, bro.
I'm out of here.
Good
like,
luck.
I don't know why exactly.
Queen City.
What
he had one too many of those chili hot dogs.
I don't know what he is that pissed about, but he wants out of there. So they've been dealing with that. But like, I do think as far as Lucho Acosta replacements, Evander is one of the only players within the league right now that you could put up with Lucho
That's a
Acosta.
banger move.
That would be
it's
a banger.
a banger move.
Yeah,
it is. I think that's basically.
I don't know about upgrade, but like
it's
you might have to change how you play a little bit. They're a little bit different. But Evander had 15 and 19 last year. This guy is like he's a workhorse. Like he puts up huge stats. He scores. The only goals he scores are bangers. Like,
he wants to be on a good team, too.
And he really wants to be on a good team. So if he goes to a good team, he's going to be like motivated and happy, which means he might play really well. Like, so I think since with the knowledge that they're kind of going through it with the Acosta situation, if they can pull this off, that would be smooth.
It's a great move from them. I mean, anyone who was going to land Evander was going to land just a great talent, period, but like a good deal. Like, let's be honest. It doesn't matter what they're going to be giving up because he's pushing his way out of the Timbers. He doesn't want to be there anymore. Him and Ned Grabavoy.
I think that's takeaway number 2.
Beefing.
That's
like,
takeaway number 2. The Timbies are losing their best player in all likelihood.
Is awesome.
It's funny.
I love this.
It's funny.
They're melting down. We did a whole show about it.
We did
a whole show about it.
Yeah, but like, it's kind of like the Messi thing. Like Ned Grabavoy, like. Your career hinges on keeping this man happy.
Yeah.
Like, what are the Timbies that you cannot tell me? No, there is no range of outcomes where Evander leaves the Timbies on this intra-league for cash trade system and they replace him with someone who's better. No chance.
No shot.
He's one of the 3 to 4 best players in the league.
Yeah.
And
even if you do, you're going to have another Evander moment, TM, where he doesn't do shit for a year or 2 and then finally becomes amazing. And by 2 years, listen, if I had to spend 2 years in Portland, I'd be fucking pissed off too. I don't want to leave. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, we'll see where he goes, but that's an inauspicious beginning to the season for the Portland Timbies as well. I don't know what they're going to do.
Preying on their downfall, I won't lie.
Dejan Joveljić.
Oh, this is a big one.
Dejan Joveljić. This was a big one. So as recently as a day or 2 ago, Tom Bogues was reporting that Tigres was throwing down a bid for Dejan Joveljić that was going to drastically increase his pay. Like, it was going to be a big move. That's one of the biggest clubs in Mexico, throwing down a ton of money for a MLS U22 signing. Mm-hmm. It was about to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And also, like, we both rate the player very highly, and I think he would bam in Liga MX easily. So I was like getting excited to watch that. And then this is unfortunate. Tigres, apparently that deal either fell through or just didn't come to pass. And now apparently Dejan Joveljić is going to...
Drum roll, please.
Sporting Kansas City, the club of professional wrestling enthusiasts. God damn it, Noah. If that's their Polito replacement, that is nice. You want to talk about an upgrade? That is the definition of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a pretty big bust of a DP signing for you. Let's be real. Like, he had
no. Not just a bust for you. That might have been one of the biggest DP busts of all time.
Well, so I don't know. I was thinking about that. Like, there were like when he played, after he first got there and he was actually playing, it was looking good. It was looking good to the point where they actually extended him, which turned out to be not
funny.
Good. That was, but like it was a huge bust of a move in the sense that he was just injured a lot, and he never became this like kind of face of the league type player that he was billed as, and they hoped he was going to be. Mm-hmm. Joveljić, I mean, he's been hurt a couple times for the Galaxy, but when this guy plays, he seems like one of the best peer number nines in the league. He's not going to have the team around him with the club of professional wrestling enthusiasts that he had with the Galaxy, but I don't know. He just seems like the kind of forward that's just going to eat.
Yeah,
like,
he'll eat.
He's just going to eat. So
And
I
they seem
unfortunately
committed to rebuilding around something.
Yeah.
Like they've said, I mean, they've said this for years. Love you, Sporting Kansas City. But, you know, it seems like they're actually making an attempt to rebuild this club. They've shipped off basically any kind of asset that they have. And I mean, who knows? It's a great move.
It's
man.
I'm sad to report that the professional wrestling enthusiasts cooked here.
They cooked with this one.
They really cooked with this one, and it's just kind of wild to see them swoop in after Tigres was in the mix.
Right.
Like, I mean, okay.
I mean, hey, they got really close to signing Ronaldo. We can't forget.
But I do think I was going to say about Evander, and I think this could apply to Joveljić and Sporting KC as they do their rebuild. Just thinking about like the dangers and perils of relying a lot on one guy.
Yes.
It seems like every time that we see an MLS club do that, when we saw Seattle do that with Ozzy Alonso for years, man. Like you take one guy out and the whole thing falls apart. The Timbies, I think, are very much in that situation with Evander. So like that's part of the reason they're in such a tough spot with that. But Sporting KC's rebuild is going to be bigger than one really good number 9.
Yeah.
You can have one really good number 9. He can get his numbers, and that does not necessarily change your fortunes as far as contending. So I do think, like, don't get me wrong, we love Joveljić. This was a great move for them, but I'm not sitting here quaking in my boots at the professional wrestling enthusiasts just yet. They got to earn that. They got to earn our fear.
We'll see. I think they have an opportunity to be a contender in the Open Cup, which there you go. Congratulations. You can win a 6th.
Another big time blockbuster move. Miguel Almirón back in MLS.
Yeah.
Atlanta United.
Did you see
has
the
brought him
photo
back
at the airport of all the Atlanta fans?
I actually
Dude, that was so tight.
Yes. So I was actually editing Charlie Baum's he covered the press conference, the Miguel Almirón reintroduction press conference. So I was editing that today. Go to MLSsoccer.com and read that. It's really good. But the photos we were using were from that, and their fans were hype. It's funny, like they're, when I first heard that this might happen, I was like, doesn't that constitute a lack of ambition? You're bringing back a retread, and I was all ready for the vocal minority of the Atlanta United fan base to be like, "Oh, we're bringing back a retread.
Yep.
What happened to the ambitious club I used to know?" There's been none of that.
No one's chirping.
They're stoked.
They're like, "Oh wait, we're not spending $1 billion on someone who's going to flop. Let's go. Let's go."
So my other first thought was that I was thinking Chris Henderson just got there. I was like, I see you, Chris, because Atlanta United have been trying to replace Miguel Almirón for years. They tried it with Barco, bust. They tried it with Pity Martinez, monumental bust. They tried it with Thiago Almada, better, closer, but still
didn't reach the level.
It didn't quite hit the same.
Yeah, it didn't
quite hit the same. It was still a knockoff. So Chris Henderson got there and he said, Garth, this club has been trying to replace Miguel Almirón for like 5 years, hasn't been able to do it. What if, and just bear with me here, Garth, bear with me, we just signed Miguel Almirón? Garth said, by God, you're right.
You're cooking.
Chris, you're cooking. Just picturing Garth saying that's pretty funny. Chris, you're cooking.
Chris.
With
the goatee and everything.
Yeah, you're cooking. Let's bring him back. And they called his agent. They said, hey, does he want to come back to Atlanta United? And Miguel Almirón was like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, why not?
Now he's back. So I did think that was, I was getting a funny visual of them talking about like the replacement of Miguel Almirón being Miguel Almirón. But then I thought about it a little bit more. And I was thinking of it from the perspective of, like when the Sounders got Ferreira and people were deriding it, part of the problem I had was the analysis was literally, you didn't hear the people deriding it say one thing about like his game.
No.
Like what he brings on the field. So
the dumb ones were.
Right. Yeah. But so like I was thinking about this, like, all right, take the nostalgia out of it. Take the retread part out of it. Like what type of player is Atlanta United getting with Miguel Almirón? I mean, to me, Miguel Almirón is a baller.
Oh yeah,
he is very good. I was thinking about how like his original run with Atlanta United when him and Joseph lit the league on fire, the stuff that made him so good. I mean, one of the best facilitators in the league while he played here. The way he and Joseph combined, their chemistry was like second to none in the league at that point. But tell me if you agree with this take. I was formulating this. He is, I think, the closest number 10 in MLS that I've seen that can mirror or at least approach what Nico Ladero brings skill set wise as a two-way player. Almirón's motor is just nonstop. He plays with his hair on fire.
Yeah.
And that's why Atlanta United fans love him so much, because he delivered so many electric moments, won them MLS Cup. But also, it was just he plays so hard and he's so talented. And the other thing about this is that I don't know if I can think of an MLS export that's gone to a club as high profile as Almirón went to, Newcastle, and succeeded as much as he did.
Yeah.
To everything that I have read and followed about it, Almirón was an excellent player in the Prem for Newcastle. The fans there love him just as much as the Atlanta fans. He was productive for them, but like I think they took to him because of what I was talking about, like with his energy and his work rate. And Newcastle, they're not a flashy Prem club. They're like a blue collar, grinded out, like we're gonna outrun you, outwork you, you know, type of club. And he was like the perfect player for that, and was a very good plus player in the Prem for them for years. So Atlanta United are getting a Premier League plus Premier League
30
quality.
Premier League goals.
Yeah. And it's like just his game transferred very well.
Yeah.
Like he was not just at that level, but he excelled at that level. They're getting him. He's only 30. He's been grinding in the Prem for the last 5-6 years, been playing at a super high level. I don't know. I got to
consistently. I got to 5 years in the Prem is impressive.
Yeah. No, I mean, I got to the end of like thinking about all of this, and I was like, I think this might be the best move anyone has made all offseason.
Yeah,
like,
it might be
like that. I think it's like such an obvious move that I don't think they're gonna get like credit for it in the way they did when they broke the bank for Almada and Barco and all that stuff.
Right.
This is a really good move.
No,
it's a really good move.
I agree. I mean, I'm just stoked to have him back in the league.
Yeah, he seems like he's
fun
like
to watch,
and he's like known for being like a cool guy as well.
Yeah.
I just damn it, I wanted Atlanta United to stay bad, which him alone might not necessarily make them good, but like they've had a pretty good offseason outside of this. They got a lot of praise from the pundits for fleecing Matthias Klick off DC
fire.
United, but I think he actually, skill set wise, is theoretically exactly what they've been missing. Atlanta United, they break the bank for all these really flashy, like talented on paper attackers, but their midfield, I feel like, has just been like so mid to bad for years. They've been throwing guys out there like freaking Franco Ibarra or Santiago Sosa, who they paid a bunch of money for and was a bust, and they just have no like. They've had no personality or energy or dynamic play from those midfield spots for like 4 or 5 years now. So like Almada, basically their plan was just like give it to Almada, have him either score a worldie or kick it to Giacomakis.
Right.
And that's it. There's like nothing beyond that. Klick is a guy who can add like some of that stuff that they don't have. So I think that was a really good pickup for them. Marinchuk they brought in last year, who doesn't seem like a carry the load type player to me, but is a really good like
in the league will be interesting to see.
And then when you have now the carry the load player with Almirón, I think Atlanta is going to be improved this year. I've said that every year for the last 2-3 years, and they're always mid again.
Yeah.
But like I think with Chris Henderson in the mix, I like this Almirón move. Like, I'm going to go ahead and predict a step forward for him.
Yeah, we'll have to do some, like, preseason predictions on one of these next episodes to kind of pick who he thinks going to win the Shield Cup, just like way too early. You know what I mean? Or just do well. I did want to. I know that we're coming to the close here, but looping back to the LA Galaxy. I was listening to the.
This is good. This was one of my last topics.
Okay, perfect. Sorry.
Good segue.
I was listening to No Sadietes, and Jeremiah was talking with the armchair analyst, one of our favorites, and they were talking about the LA Galaxy. And I've heard a lot of conversation about how the LA Galaxy are bombing out, they're folding, they're rebuilding, they're going to be cheeks, they're going to be bad.
Which,
by the way,
it's not over. But like when we were doing the ambition ratings, we weren't really taking that into account. Like I didn't realize their salary cap situation was what it is, and they've had to make a lot of moves, which I think is what you were getting at. But
yeah, well, that was part of it. But I wanted to hear, is the demise of the LA Galaxy being overstated, or do you think that they are going to genuinely have a tough time this season?
They are in a tougher situation than I thought.
Yeah,
they are. They've had to shed a lot of salary that to get like compliant. That I kind of, when we made the ambition ratings video, like I wasn't really thinking about that. But like Ricky Puig, first of all, is not going to be ready for the start of the season, so they're going to have to go into next season without him off rip. They've had to shed Jalen Neal, who's their highest upside young defender. They had to send Mark Delgado, who's one of their most important midfielders last year, to LAFC, which sucks for them. And they're now losing Joveljić, who's their like big time number 9. I mean, that front four that we talked about all last year, you're down half of it immediately. Miguel Berry is like, I think, the backup right now. That is not going to cut it. So they got to replace Joveljić now. How much money do they have to do all this stuff?
They have multiple U22 spots, it seems like.
Okay, so, but like...
And they hit on U22s down there.
They do, but like, it's never a guarantee that you're going to do that again.
But they're pretty damn good at it. If anyone's going to do it, like...
I mean, Joveljić is the best U22 signing that we've seen in the league yet. So, I mean, I trust them to hit on it again, but they still have to go do that. Yeah. And... I feel like I'm even missing maybe a couple of moves. Like they had to do a lot more than I thought. However, I will say, Will Kuntz, this guy seems like a wizard.
He's
like,
kind of the GOAT.
The stuff he did with their roster to get them that MLS Cup last year, I'm like, I think this guy just might be elite.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, I think that they're still going to be near the top of the West. Are they going to be as good as they were last year, though? I think that is a fair question, especially at the start of the season.
Yeah. I mean, here's where I'm coming from. I think they're good. I think they're going to be maybe not as good as last year, but they're going to go all in on Champions League, right? There's still the triple Ps. You're down one piece. You're double Ping. You might sign another 9. You might, they're going to figure it out. I think by the end of the season, this is a long season of 90% of league games that don't even matter. I feel like they're going to still somehow come in 4th. They're still somehow going to make the playoffs, have a home game, and turn something around. Like, they're going to make some signings in the summer. They're going to come back. They have the core, though, man. And they re-signed Yoshida, right? He's back. And they signed another kind of veteran piece. I can't remember the name. I think the Galaxy are still going to be a contentious, not even dark horse because they won last year, but like I think they're going to be a force to reckon with.
It just feels like they are on much more solid ground than they used to be organizationally. Like their foundation, even though they've had to move off a few of these guys, the Galaxy of a few years ago, I think, would crumble in this situation with Will Kuntz and Greg Vanney pulling the strings. Like I'm with you. I think they're probably going to be a really good, but like, I do think the West is wide ass open. And that leads me to my next point, which is I want to talk about the other LA team, LAFC. And then we'll close it out here for episode 82. This was the last topic that I had. I was looking at LAFC's offseason because I was looking at both LA teams because I see them as the 1A, 1B biggest threats to Seattle right now in the West. Everyone else I look at and I'm like, you could be a threat. But the LA teams, I'm like, okay, all right, you got to take this seriously. You got to take this seriously. So I was looking at the Galaxy. I was looking at how they're having more turnover than I expected. LAFC, on that minutes graphic that we were looking at earlier, only 70%. They've had a lot more turnover. Doyle pointed this out in his column the other day too. They've had a lot of more turnover than I think people realize. Listen to this list of players, and this isn't even all of them, but these are key players from last year that they've moved off of. Kai Kamara, which you can say, oh, he's 40, but I mean, he was a really good backup 9. He was an important.
He could play another year.
He was an important part of their team last year, and like even Kai Kamara notwithstanding, it's like their backup 9 is who was productive last year.
Dude, he had 3 goals and 5 assists last year.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's for a backup 9.
That's like you take that all day, and that's not like super easily replaced.
No.
Jesus Murillo, their starting center back, he's gone out of there. He's playing in like Europe or something. Ilya, important part of their team for years.
Yeah.
Gone. He's out of there. He's on Austin FC
He made the
now.
smart choice.
Omar Campos. Yeah, exactly. He's selling tires in Austin. Omar Campos, important player, gone. And Bogus, obviously, sold to Cruz Azul. That's a big one. So I was looking at that. I went through a range of emotions on this.
Yeah.
I was looking at that and I was like, damn, they're not going to have an easy time necessarily replacing that. Like, I trust their like Thornton and them to replace them to the highest of their ability, but like it's not necessarily easy.
They gutted though.
Well, okay, but then so I was looking at their incoming players, and I was like, "Damn, I really like this offseason. Listen to this.
Yeah,
listen to who they brought in. Jeremy Abobasi,
right?
Cook.
Yep.
Mark Delgado, Cook. I think that like he was under anyone who covered the Galaxy last year would tell you that he was like unsung, low-key, one of their most important players. Like, that's a good get for LAFC. Did you know they got Yaya Boa?
I feel like I did see this somewhere, yeah.
That's like a really good attacking fullback. That's like the type of player that I've been like pining for Seattle to get.
Yeah.
Now LAFC has him. That is oh my God, that's a good get.
Yeah.
And then a couple days ago, they got Nkosi Tafari from FC Dallas, who, shout out Mark Kastner, he's been on this train for years. That's one of the best young up-and-coming center backs in the league right now.
Yeah.
So I looked at that list and
also, what is FC Dallas doing? Do they have any players anymore?
I mean, they're clearly in their rebuild, but like Tafari is like Mark has been saying for literally the last like 3 years. He's been doing the Sounder thing about Tafari, and Tafari's really damn good. So I saw that they still have to replace Bogus, but I love that offseason. That's good.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna suck too when what's his name goes there, the Atletico player Griezmann, when he ends up there. It's gonna suck.
Yeah, him and Giroud are gonna be in a 4-4-2 up top. But anyway, basically all that's to say, like I see little scenario where LAFC takes any sort of meaningful step back, which is what I was hoping for. I think it's more likely that the Galaxy do and are not as powerful as they were last year. I kind of tend to think of it how you do, that their foundation and the savviness of their front office now and Greg Vanney will see them through, and they're still going to be really good. LAFC, man, like if they can hit on their Bogus replacement. And now I think Abobasi is an upgrade on Kamara.
Yeah,
I do.
True.
And I think Delgado, I'll take him on any MLS team. And Yaya Boa, that's like a whole new element. And Tafari, I think Tafari's an upgrade over Murillo.
Yeah, that's a dub. That's a dub.
Yeah. So anyway, not to be the LA podcast, but we're scouting opponents for you guys. Okay?
Those are the West is going to be ass other than those two.
That's sort of I mean
that's how it feels.
That's how it feels right now. Like I always have the takes like that going into a season, and then the games start and they blow up in my face. But right
Houston
now
lost their best players.
Who got better?
Salt Lake got worse. Minnesota, I think, could be up there this next season.
But do we see a quantum leap? I don't know.
No, there's not a quantum leap, but I think everyone else got worse. Like I think they could finish top 4. I think the Sounders are going to be battling
I
with
think you
fixture
could
congestion,
argue,
but
I think you could argue that Seattle got the most better,
got the
betterest out of all these teams in the West.
Yeah.
I think it's them in LAFC.
Yeah. I really do think that it's the top 4, you'll have Galaxy, LAFC, Seattle, and then one random team that decides to play. Whether that's either Austin or Minnesota, I don't know. I think those 2 could maybe be up there this season.
I do think the West is wide ass open, and I expect Seattle to be challenging for the number 1 seed.
Ooh.
No excuses, okay? I don't want to see like the you know how they do the slow start thing and they play.
They love doing that.
They love doing that.
That's a
they
good
play
bet.
at 1.1 points per game until like July or August, and then they turn up. I don't want to see that this year. You got a wide open West. You've got reinforcements with Ferreira and De La Vega. You won 16 games last year and made the Western Conference chip, and you're returning 92% of the minutes with a couple of good additions that should make you better. Like, expectations should be rightfully high.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm going to be honest, I think that there's a cup in this season. I don't know what cup it is.
And I think that should be the barometer.
I think that
should
I
be
can
the standard.
feel it.
If we get to the end of the year and there's not at least one more in the trophy case, that'll be a disappointment.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to call it, Noah. That was a great return show.
Mm-hmm.
Got some. I thought we cooked a couple times there.
We did.
Like, comment, subscribe, write us a review, sub to the YouTube.
Follow us on Instagram.
Definitely. The Road to 250 on Instagram is alive and well. Appreciate everyone who's been following when we plug that. Like the video, and we'll probably do a live stream soon.
Yeah.
Until then, we out.
Peace.